Welcome to the Dreamer Podcast, episode number 7. And this week I have with me Queensland's leading trainer, Tony Gollan. Welcome, Tony.
Good morning, Dave. Good to be on the podcast.
Great to have you on. We've had a long partnership now for it's going on 8 years. So we thought we'd get you on and just talk a bit about your background so people that don't know you, and a lot of people do, might get a bit of a background of how you got to where you are today. So we'll get straight into it. So you're originally from Toowoomba and you started out getting involved with your dad's when he was a trainer back at a young age. Was that your first sort of experience and foray into sort of the racing industry?
Yeah, no, it was. My dad, he'd been knocking around with horses. Most of his life, he's a publican, but he always dabbled in training a few. Then he went out training full time. So, like any other young guy, you're always following your dad around, school holidays, weekends, as much as you could. Always end up at the stables or at the races. So that's how I got involved in the sport. I loved it straight away, right from the get-go. And more or less as soon as I had an opportunity to start training, I took it up.
So you were at school at the time where you were doing a bit of part-time work at your dad's?
Yeah, all the way through school. Primary school, high school, all the way through. We're always around the stables, school holidays, weekends. Me and a bunch of mates always drag them in as well to help pick up the poo and clean the stables as a young fella. So started off doing that, and got a strapper's license when I was old enough, started strapping at the races and doing things like that. So been around the stables.
Did you leave school at an early age? Or
No, I finished school. I went to school to year 12. Dad was pretty keen for me to obviously finish school, obviously to get a trade or go to uni or do something like that as well. So I played with that for a year or so, and then I said for one reason or another I started training.
You actually had a bit of a career in rugby league in the early days. I think you represented Queensland, the under-19s. Was that ever, potential to make that a career?
Oh, look, I don't know. I guess as a young man, young guy, I thought it could. I was keen to. I mean, it wasn't much. When you grow up in Toowoomba, there's not too many things you do apart from play footy, and have a punt on the horses and work at the stables. I'm basically pretty old, normal country kid. I did want to become a football player for a while. Always loved the horses probably just as much, to be honest. But trialled at South Sydney, did a pre-season down there, played a few reserve grade games. Ended up coming home to play state league footy in Queensland and back at Toowoomba.
Yeah. So in 1999, you took out your own trainer's license. I think you were only 20 at that stage. So did you give up rugby league, or were you sort of still mixing it while you were training?
So my dad got disqualified from training when I was down at South Sydney, when I was doing the pre-season down there and starting to play. And there wasn't a spot open up for me in the first grade squad. So I elected to come home to Queensland, and Dad, all the horses had gone, no horses left, and that's why I decided I really wanted to start training. He really couldn't sort of stop me too much then. He tried to for a while before that, so I started then. I started when Dad got disqualified, so I started training, and that's how that's basically how I got into it. I kept playing footy, but more like just with my mates, footy at home in Toowoomba. I wasn't pursuing a career in football anymore after that.
Yeah, and in those early days, did you have much backing? How many horses would you have been training in those sort of real early days?
Started with 4 horses, and Mum and Dad owned half of the 4, so there was no getting paid for those. So I just started with 4 horses and learn as I went along. I'd been working in the stables for years. It was just something I always wanted to do. I was passionate about, and learn as I went along. I had a lot of guidance, obviously, from Dad, and watching plenty of other good trainers that were training at Toowoomba at the time. But that's how many.
Yeah, you moved around a little bit. I think you went to Brisbane, you went to the Gold Coast in those really early years. Was there any other than your dad, was there any other person that was sort of a mentor for you in those early days?
No, I wasn't really a mentor. Jimmy Atkins was a trainer I admired a lot up in Toowoomba. He was a brilliant trainer. He's a Hall of Fame trainer, and he's trained lots of Group 1 winners, Sydney, Melbourne, had champions. He's detailed to how he went about it. I admired from afar without working with him or being mentored. I guess I was always taught you learnt a lot, from watching and asking questions, and sometimes not talking too much. So that's probably what I did with him. But sort of back at that time when I started, a lot of older trainers didn't really want to help younger people too much. It was a totally different era to what we're seeing now. You never saw as many of the foremans coming out and training and, all this sort of stuff. And there was certainly, younger trainers were more shunned upon than they were accepted back then. So I didn't have a whole lot of help in that regard, but Dad had a very good standing and a good friendship with a lot of trainers. So I sort of did know a lot, but Dad was my biggest support or biggest mentor. Jim Atkins was a man that I admired a lot. And yeah, I was, as you mentioned, I was a very unsettled young guy. I was always busy wanting to get ahead of myself. I soon learnt that it's not a sprint, this game. It's a test of stamina.
Yeah, I think in those early days when did your dad come back into training, you went sort of back under that umbrella?
Yeah, to a degree. I always held my own license, and we sort of went back together a bit, but I was always a pretty headstrong young fella, and so we would help each other, but we'd always have that competitive edge against each other as well. We sort of had separate yards there, so but I sort of always come home, and yeah, albeit he was a big help. He always used to love beating me as well. If we both had horses in races, which we would train separate, he would love getting one up on me.
Yeah. And in 2003, I think it was, you sort of went basically under your own name again, training, and you bought a filly. I think you bought it, Temple Spirit, who was a successful mare for you, who won 8 races. Or was that a homebred of Eureka's?
She was a homebred. Colin and the team out there at the time, late Colin McAlpine, obviously had her at the sales. I couldn't sell her. I sent a few spellers out there. There's a funny story how I got her. I sent a few spellers out there, just really wanted to train horses for the bigger farms around the area, because I've seen the bigger trainers around my area that train for the breeders, and I didn't have any of that support at all, like bugger
Yeah.
all of any really. So I sent a few horses out there to spell, and I was out there looking at them, made an excuse to go and look at them, and it was a lovely filly, just walking around the paddock that was unsold, and I said, "Oh, what's that filly there?" And it was her, and she was happened to be my special dame, which my dad trained, and I strapped prior to that horse going down to Brian Mayfield Smith, when my father got quite ill. So it just was by chance. I looked after the stallion that it was by, just picked her in a paddock of 8 horses, I think, that day. And Colin said she was $30,000 or $40,000. I said, yeah, I'll be able to get that together. I didn't have 30,000 pieces of dirt to throw at her. So just bullshitted along really for a couple of weeks. And then he said, oh, look, someone else is going to buy her. I said, okay. I didn't think I'd ever see her again. And a month later, he rang me and asked me to train her on a partnership type deal. And so I trained her on a deal with Colin. It was very slanted in his favour, but I got to train a nice filly that I liked, and that was the beginning of my association with McAlpine family, and obviously the beginning of the association with Temple and Spirit of Boom, which we'll probably get to.
Yeah. So I was going to say, was that the start of your relationship with Eureka Stud? Because obviously now, they're the leading stud in Queensland, and you've got a tight association with them. And obviously Temple Spirit was the dam of Temple of Boom and Spirit of Boom, who were probably your big flag bearers in those early days. Temple of Boom won a Group 1. Spirit of Boom never won a Group 1, did he?
He won 2. He won 2 Group 1s. Yeah.
Okay. And so Spirit of Boom is obviously now one of the leading stallions in Queensland, and especially with the cutest breeding scheme. So that's really, that association with Eureka, that's really sort of been the backbone of your training career, hasn't it?
Yeah, well, that sliding doors moment really that day, just going out to look at some spellers, found an unsold horse in a paddock who I really liked. Didn't ask about any of the other horses in the paddock, just her. It was a random moment, and she won 8 from 15, 7 or 8 from 15. So she was a good brood mare. She got injured in a race, slab fractured a knee. Really just a sliding doors moment. My career would probably not be here on this podcast if it wasn't for a horse like her. It could be still a battling country trainer, but was lucky enough to buy the first foal out of her, which was Temple of Boom, which was my first Group 1 winner at Randwick when he won the Galaxy. James McDonald's first Group 1 winner in Sydney, so a bit of trivia history there. And then the second foal, I paid 40 grand for him. I couldn't sell. I ended up with 30% of him, but I couldn't sell it all. And the second foal was Spirit of Boom. We paid 90,000 for him the next year. 1 year later, he won 2 Group 1s. They quinelled a Group 1, they quinelled a Group 2. They were remarkable horses. Took me all over Australia. And Temple of Boom was my first winner in Victoria, up the straight on Oaks Day, my very first runner down there. So I had a lot of fun times over. Their longevity was phenomenal, and it all started with one mare in a paddock.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And so you did actually buy those horses? They weren't homebreds given to you either?
No, we bought them. She was giving me the mother because they couldn't sell her. But the 2 foals I actually bought. It's indicated. Eureka stayed in a percentage, small percentage, like 10 or 15%. And I syndicated the rest of clients, friends, which I had a few clients at that time. And that was really how I grew the business off the back of those.
And that must have helped Eureka as well. I mean, with Spirit of Boom, that's probably been the sliding moment for them as well that's really lifted them to a new level now.
Yeah, well, they'd had some good stallions, Sammy Palatinski and a few others over the years, but they were really in need of a good stallion. And Queensland was really in need of a good colonial stallion itself. So yeah, he came along at a time that Queensland breeding needed him, and he's done a fantastic job. Even now, 30 grand or 35 grand, whatever he is, he's as good a value for money a stallion as you can get in my eyes.
Yeah, and with the cutest bonus scheme around, I mean, he's dominated that through the years, effectively, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's been great. I mean, better than Reddy come along not long after him. So they were two really good stallions that you can hang your hat on up here. That they get to the track and race. They're very sound horse. They're very trainable horses, and you race for that big cutest money up here, which is the lifeblood of a lot of owners that race horses in Queensland, racing cutest horses, because you get that extra bonus prize money.
Yeah, absolutely. In 2012, you ended up relocating to Eagle Farm. So how big did the stable get at Toowoomba before you moved to Eagle Farm?
About 30, 38 horses, something like that. Wouldn't have been quite 40, I don't think. Dad was pre-training some for me as well. So we were both out at Barham. We'd moved out away from Clifford Park, where we trained for years, to Westbrook, to a private training property out there. I think Dad had about 20 or something, and I had about 30 something, roughly around that sort of number. They weren't big numbers. I come fresh off Temple of Boom, winning the Galaxy that year in 2012. I moved to Brisbane, I think it was 6 or 8 horses. So it was effectively starting back to a degree from scratch, although
Yeah.
I did have some backup. But a lot of those horses I trained in Toowoomba I didn't bring down to Brisbane. They weren't up to the quality of Brisbane standard racing.
Oh, right. So how many stables did you actually get access to at Eagle Farm when you started?
They gave me 40 when I started, but Kevin Dixon at the time was the chairman, and they allowed me to fill them as I could. You know what I mean? They were really keen to have me here, and they didn't rush me with having to pay the rent on the full 40. So I never had any money. She was still week to week. So they did a really good service for me, and I hope they feel as a club that I've repaid them back, because they allowed me to set up, and I brought down 6 or 8 really nice horses, which I had some really nice horses, but I didn't have the depth of talent that we do have now.
Well, that's amazing then, considering in 2013-14 season, you actually won the premiership. And that was the first year of you've won it 12 years in a row now. That was the first year you actually won it. You must have grown very quickly when you got to Eagle Farm.
Yeah, we did. We've always been active yearling buyers and active out in the market. And I thought Brisbane was ready for a bit of a change, with another trainer in the mix down here. And it just worked out that well. We've been very fortunate with the support we've had since we got here. A lot of help from down south owners as well. Southern owners have been really supportive of our yard, but a lot of Queensland owners that raced horses down south, we tried to get back into our stable here. What we were able to do, and the success did start. I had a really good nucleus of nice horses when I moved here. The 2012-13 season was a tricky one for us. We got going quite well, and then we ran out of gas. I remember Kelly Sweeter, another trainer down here, told me, the premiership's not a half mile at Kilcoy. So I was going quite good, and I just didn't really find the line late. But I made sure I got the parameters right the next season, and we've got it pretty right since. But we've been very fortunate with the support we got since we got here. But I was really lucky with the team of horses I brought down here, and the club were very patient with me.
Yeah, you're every year you seem to exceed your previous year's sort of results as far as winners and prize money. When did Eagle Farm do that redevelopment in the training in the middle there?
I got a funny feeling about 6 years ago now, maybe 7 years ago, something like that. We've been in the middle here. So when I first moved down, we were over on the side, and they were all makeshift stables. Most of those stables were put together during the COVID period. Not COVID, EI period, actually. It was quite a bizarre thing. They were all makeshift until this mega plan was meant to be put to play, but it just kept getting put off and off and off and off. So we first come down here to those stables, totally vastly different to what we have here now. Then obviously the work started here. So it was a tricky place to be at during all that works process. Tunnels being put in, we were training at Doomben, we were training on horseshoe tracks. There was all sorts of tricky methods involved, and it made for a pretty tough period for all the local trainers. But now to have the stables we have now and the facilities that we do have here, it was all worth it.
Did you have any input with the club in the design of those stables?
No, we didn't have any input. They had people far cleverer than horse trainers to design these stables, and they mostly got it really right. Airflow, very important, because we're 4 meters underground level here in the middle of Eagle Farm. So the biggest worry was always going to be the heat. in summer. So they've got insulated roofs the way they're pointed to get as much airflow as we can off that. We mostly get a really good northeasterly breeze here off Moreton Bay. The stables are actually really cool. They've worked out well. They're very functional. Yeah, no, someone much cleverer than me designed these. It's not my forte designing stables.
They are functional. That's why I asked the question, because I'm actually quite impressed by the way they were designed. I find that they're a great design. So yeah, just one thing I've noticed over the years dealing with you is your knowledge of placement of your horses, and actually also the opposition that you're racing against. Is that a knowledge you just acquired over the years, or do you put in extra work to watch replays, or do you have someone helping you with that?
No, I do most of that. I do have a team involved now, but at the start when you met me, Dave, there was certainly no one else, just me. But we have high volume of horses now, so I do have a bit of a team. Helps me another guy sits just to my right here. I mean, he must be out having lunch now.
Yeah.
Helps me with this sort of stuff. But no, mostly that's me. I do my own. I watch a lot of racing. Obviously, local racing here I know quite well. I've done that since I started training. Keep a good eye on the form. Think I can understand the races reasonably well, how different riders ride, how races are run. So I try and give the owners like yourselves a good indication of how I think this race will transpire. We don't always get it right, but we try and get it right a lot more than we don't. Also, love to have a good understanding of track bias and patterns. I think that's very important. They can be very historical, a lot of track bias and patterns in racetracks. So I tend to keep a mental note of that. Luckily, I've still got quite a good memory. But yeah, so something I've always been interested in, that side of racing, always keep a good eye on it. So hopefully I can have a good knowledge of how our races are going to be run, and obviously a knowledge of our own horses' abilities and where we think they sit in the grand scheme of things.
You do have a good memory, because even sort of future planning of races for horses, and even when we have a runner and they've done well or they've done even badly, it doesn't really matter. You sort of know what's ahead for them and whether there's a progression in the calendar.
Yeah, I think that's the game. I mean, we're always looking ahead, aren't we? We're not sort of
Yeah.
we're learning from what's been behind us, but we're always looking ahead. That's the good thing about this game. You should never get people say, trainers should never get too depressed, because you shouldn't. Because you should always be looking ahead. What's up next? There's always something around the corner for you, and it's always good to know the progression where you're going with horses. You're not just setting them, week to week. Like we spoke about some of your horses, where I say, well, I think it's one more run. If we get that rating to there, then we look at an option. And that option could be 3 months away, but that's sort of how your mind's always working, I think. And that's no different with some of yours than it is to the other 100 that I train. So it keeps you busy. But if you get up early and you finish late, you get a lot done during the day.
Yeah. Actually, I admire the fact that you are always up early, and with a young family, you're always going at night as well. So you must have a lot of energy. In 2016, you secured 20 boxes at Rose Hill and tried a satellite stable in Sydney, and you decided, I think, for logistic reasons, that was too hard to manage. You now seem to attack these Melbourne and Sydney carnivals, well, in a very successful way, really, now, by just keeping your base in Brisbane and using, I think you use a lot of Kieran Maher's facilities through your friendship with him.
Yeah, correct. I didn't enjoy the satellite stable experience, to be perfectly honest, particularly not in such a tough jurisdiction as Sydney, or if it was to be in somewhere like Melbourne. I think that would have to be your base, and then your weaker jurisdiction would be used better for a satellite, which is what we'd see the Sydney Melbourne stables do. For me, I'd like to be the one here they have to struggle to beat when they come up here my way, and I think it's tough for me to have a satellite then try and beat them in their home turf. So we do use trainers that we have good associations with. Peter Snowden, he was a guy who we've used a lot of his facilities as well. And then Kieran and I have developed a business relationship where we utilise each other's stables. So he comes up here with horses to us, and then I go down there to him. And because he's got the stables in Sydney and Melbourne, it works really well. So Kieran and I are good friends, and I like the way that he trains and the way his mind thinks. And I enjoy using his facility. I'm quite impressed with the Cranbourne Training Centre. I think it's fantastic down there, and I'm looking forward to him getting his boxes at Randwick. I think it'll make life a bit better for us as well. So,
Have you used Bong Bong?
I have. Yeah, I've been to Bong Bong. I quite like Bong Bong. It's a very pretty picturesque place. But when you come from just training on the tracks like we are here, I think the horses are more familiar on that on-track training to a degree in our style. Yeah, no, I'm enjoying our relationship, particularly the business relationship we have with each other, and it's very seamless, and it works quick. It works well for us both ways.
Well, it seems to be working well because you've had effectively the last 6 weeks now. You've had runners in Melbourne every Saturday, and I think you've been spending a lot of time in Melbourne yourself on the weekends with these horses in the bigger races. So yeah, it seems to be successful. So. Have you sort of developed a better understanding now of what type of horse you need to campaign in those southern states?
Yeah, you need a good one. That's for
Yeah,
sure. You need a good horse. Yeah, definitely. You need a horse that can really get to that elite level. I think there's no secret. Our winter carnival here springboards a lot of nice horses to the spring, particularly in Melbourne and Sydney. But we've really focused on Melbourne in the spring and then more Sydney in the autumn, I guess you might say.
yeah,
Maybe
obviously.
that's the traditionalist in me. I'm not sure, but that's probably what I've enjoyed. And we found horses that can be competitive in the good races here during the winter. You can certainly travel down there and they can be competitive there. But yeah, you get a good understanding of the horse. You understand what horses too that trips bring on. A young horse down there at the moment, Transatlantic. He's not that
Yeah.
young, but he's mentally young horse. And I think the trip away has done him the world of good, as I thought it would before he left. And it's just pleasing to see him settling into a different routine. You're right, I do go down once a week and see the horses. I enjoy seeing them. I don't get to see them every day like I do here. So to get down there every single week to put your eye over them and just have a look at how they've changed or haven't changed or whatnot is a big part of training these horses in a state.
Do you actually send your own staff down there to look after the horses, or does Kieran's staff look after them?
No, yes, we do. We send our own staff down, particularly during the carnival. When we start racing a few horses out of carnival, which would be more towards Sydney, when he gets into Randwick, we'll utilise probably his staff a little bit differently there. Hit and run sort of trips, we'll leave a few there to run on, similar to what he does here with us, where the horses come, with no staff intact. But during the carnival, we always send someone down that knows the horse well, rather than put them into a new mix with new people that don't understand that horse as well. They got to an elite level because the people that handle them understand them, and that's how we like to keep it.
Are you looking to race more horses, say, in Sydney in these benchmark level races? Because the prize money's so strong in Sydney at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. You're going to see us have a lot bigger presence in Sydney in the coming years, particularly off-season races, things like that. We program horses around Queensland to miss different areas, but there's certainly ways we can implement Sydney into our routine. Under no illusion how tough the racing is there week in, week out. But I believe there's avenues there for us to use where our horses could be competitive. And being only an overnight float trip down to Sydney, and I said once Kieran's particularly set up at Randwick, pretty keen to utilise that environment.
When is he due to set up and around, you know?
Look, when they fix the stables, there's a bit of work to be done to those stables at Leilani Lodge. So I don't know the answer to that question, but the sooner, the better. I think it'd be a much better trip.
Yeah. Queensland's become more competitive in its racing in the last 5 years as well, and the development of especially with the development of the Gold Coast track and training facilities. And you've moved now into the Gold Coast as well, into that region with effectively a satellite stable or a second stable with Shane Maher looking after that. How's that been? Because that's been there for about a year now.
Really good. I'm just watching my last trial of there, just go over the line back to the Gold Coast now. But no, it's been really good. It started off with a slow burn for us. We didn't have the boxes at the start, and then we're nearly a full season, I think, nearly in where we are now, which has been great. So we've got 40 boxes down there. Stables are really good. They're quite functional as well. A little bit longer to work a horse because you've got to go across the road, walk them through. But for some horses, that's unreal because it just desensitizes them a little bit, just quietens them down. One of your horses, I particularly love training down there at Bender. Horses like that, we're under saddle that bit longer, that longer walk across onto the tracks. It really changes the horse's mindset towards his training, which I like. So the facility is good. Been a really good progression for us. A lot of horses get ready there, come to Brisbane, and there'll be the odd horse that we leave down there and race out of there just for the totally different training centre. Swap horses backwards and forwards. And Shane and his team down there do a fantastic job. The horses are, you can really tell the ones when they're coming up now that they're really where they should be in their preparation. So it just allows our flow to be better. So horses aren't stuck away out of the business, part of training for too long. You can get them up and trial them and get them ready for the races.
And Shane Maher, who's a very experienced horseman, who's been involved with great horses in the past, is he pretty much autonomous over there, or are you down at the Gold Coast much yourself?
I get there sort of when I can here and there. During the spring now, when I'm away in Melbourne a lot, I don't get there, but I'll bring those horses up to trial and jump out up in Brisbane so we can have a look at them from here. I'll bring them to me as opposed to me always going down there to him. But I talk to Shane most days by text or on the phone, and I see the worksheets. We obviously do the worksheets for down there, and we know what they're eating, etc., etc. So it's a good situation. The horses are fed and looked after just like they are here, just albeit in a different setting. So the horses are coming along beautifully. They're coming from the Gold Coast. He has been associated with some good horses, but not near as good as his partners. Claire Bird, the horse she's been associated with Sunline, who sits right behind me. She's out of the office here at the moment.
Yes.
Who sits right behind me here. So, no, they're a good team, and Shane and his crew down there, they do a really good job.
Yeah, absolutely. And the trend in Melbourne and Sydney at the moment with trainers is they have their city base and they have a bit of a sort of a provincial or country base for their horses. I think you've started to sort of utilise some places like Embrook and other River Junction, I think, as well, to sort of freshen up horses.
Embrook I've been doing since I got here pretty well. Not long after I got here, I started with Letitia Langbacker and the Langbacker family. They had a place called Washpool. So I had some lighter fillies. I just couldn't hold up in prep. So we started developing this program, what we were doing with them, going out and coming back in. So I've been doing that for the last 10 years.
Okay,
So it's nothing new to me, that freshen up type model where they go out, spend time on the grass. Trucks are coming and going Thursday now. I'm from races on Wednesday. So horses raced yesterday, been trotted up this morning, checked over on the truck out to there to do their 4 to 7 days of recovery type work before they come back in and get set for their next race. So very, very similar procedure what we've done for some time, and with the great support of Letitia and her crew out there, we've developed a program that seems to work really well. We hold horses up in work for quite a while, as you know. And more importantly, owners race for pride money for longer, which is the name of the game.
Absolutely. Many trainers from Sydney and Melbourne now are running satellite stables in Queensland. You've got Annabelle and Rob Archibald, Michael Friedman, Chris Waller. Are you enjoying the extra competition that they're bringing to the Queensland racing sort of jurisdiction?
Yeah, I am. I think it's good. I mean, Annabelle and Rob have been here for some time, and Chris Waller, well, he needs satellite stables with that many horses, so he's been here for a while as well. But not only do they bring competition, Michael Friedman now, they bring a different set of ownership eyes on your racing up here. So it can only be good. It can only be a positive thing. We see owners racing horses up here that might not normally race them outside of Sydney. It gives us exposure to another ownership group, ownership base that get people racing horses in Queensland excited about racing horses in Queensland. So it's only all positive stuff.
And staffing wise, you've talked about a few already. Shane Maher at Gold Coast, Claire Bird. You've also got Craig Kavanagh, who's been with you. Actually, I'm not even sure right from day one, has he?
No,
your association with him has been. It's been a long association, I know that.
Yeah, it has. It's not from day one. I've known him since I was a kid. He was friends with my dad. He came rocking up to Toowoomba from Bar Calden or somewhere like that in the bush with a big beard, looked like Chad Morgan, and he was working for Main Roads and was training a couple of quarter horses. And Dad brought him home when I was a kid, about 12, 10 or something. So I've known Craig majority part of my life. He's been working with me now for the last, I don't know, 7 or 8 years, maybe 8 years now, after he'd been around here and there. So yeah, he's a good man. He's part of the family. He's been here for, like I said, for that period of time, but I've known him for a lot longer.
Yeah, and your staff have been very stable since we've been associated with for the last 8 years, and I can't, recall much change in your staffing. So that obviously is a testament to your processes and procedures and the way that you treat your staff.
Yeah, we're very fortunate with a really good team of mostly young men and women that work here. So we've got quite a big South American influence in our yard with Colombians. We've got quite a lot of them here. We've had a few of those boys have come through. We've got a few of them through to citizens now, which has been really cool. So we've got quite a few of them, but we've had a lot of staff for a long time. Most of our riders stay here until they stop, basically. Yeah. So we're very fortunate. Try and cultivate a good team environment. We win and lose together. We can have a lot of fun too when we win. Everyone gets along pretty well. The dynamics of the staff here are great. Our key staff have been with me for a while now, and they're the driving force of all the people underneath that. So I'm very fortunate with the key staff we got, that's for sure.
And even Toowoomba breaker Jake Capewell, he's been associated with you for a long time. I assume that started when you were back in Toowoomba days. He does.
I didn't actually.
Sorry,
I didn't know Jake then. I actually played footy with 2 of his brothers, not Kurt. Two of the other boys, the older boys. So I sort of knew the family, but didn't really know Jake till a bit later on, actually. And he's just a hell of a good guy. Him and Jay, they're nice people, do a really good job. His mum and father are lovely people as well from Charleville. So no, just a good guy. Does a really good job. Got tipped off to use him, and as soon as I started, we've never stopped, and I won't. So he's He does a great job. Got a good young family, and he's just a good hard worker and going out there doing his own thing. I love using owner operators. I think they always, put more into it when they're there all the time and got skin in the game.
He's training a few himself these days as well. He's not trying to knock you off, is he?
No, he's not. He's trained a few barrier rogues he's got from down south, which he's done a really
Yeah,
good job with, and he trained a couple of nice horses there. But no, he's more a breaking pre-train than anything else, and he's an exceptionally
yeah.
good horseman.
So the expansion over the last 12 years of winning the premiership, you seem to be, as I said earlier, you're exceeding your goals every year. What are your future sort of ambitions? You've achieved a lot. You've won a Group 1 in Melbourne with Antino and Joncar. You've won Group 1s in Sydney. So, have you still got ambitions to grow bigger or do much more in the southern states?
We probably don't want to. It's not really ambition of growing bigger. I think we want to accommodate everyone who we can. That's important to us. I'd love to race. Probably, I'd love to race a little bit more often in Sydney. Utilise Sydney a little bit more, being only just down the road. Obviously, a bit of a way down the road, but obviously the closest big racing jurisdiction to us. We'd like to race a little bit more there, and obviously be competitive whilst racing there. But just continue to keep giving good service. The addition of the Gold Coast stable has been a big plus for us in the last couple of years as far as our flow of getting horses spelling pre-training into the system, and that's been important. I obviously love to keep attacking the carnivals, the autumns and the springs away from Brisbane, and also defend our own carnival and be very strong here. So they're all just the basic goals. Just keep on refining and trying to be better as a business as what we were last year. Be better again the next season. That means, running it better processes for our owners, more prize money, just refining processes to make it a more enjoyable place to have a horse and more profitable.
And that flow has been noticeable in the last year as well with the Gold Coast there, and that development there has been excellent. They're doing a bit of night racing, probably not as much as I thought they would have done a bit more. They might have some more plans in the future. And only last week you were inducted into the Queensland Racing Hall of Fame. And for someone who's still young, that must have been a great honour for you. And have you had that ceremony yet?
It's this Sunday with our racing awards. So yeah, no, it was a good honour. It was a big surprise, to be honest. Massive surprise. I didn't think about that at all. So I feel like we've got a fair bit more to do yet. But obviously, I feel very proud of the fact that that's someone's thought, or a group of people have thought that was that I was worthy of it. And look, as a stable, we've achieved a lot, but we still got a lot more to achieve yet. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, you've got Transatlantic running in the Group 1 Toorak this weekend. You've got Golden Boom running at Caulfield, and Antino was excellent last Saturday at Flemington and heading towards the Cox Plate. That must be very exciting to have a live chance in a Group 1 race like the Cox Plate.
Yeah, I can't wait. I was very proud of him on the weekend. He probably just lacked that one good conditioning run going into that race Saturday. And obviously the winner, Sedilli, is obviously a very good horse. Look, it adds for a very interesting next few weeks, doesn't it? Building up to the Cox Plate. It's probably one of the strongest open Cox Plates we've seen for a while. There's obviously been a lot of champions have won a Cox Plate. This year looks very open. We go there with a live chance, and we look forward to it. It's going to be awesome. It's the last one at Moonee Valley, and the way the track is shaped, and we've all watched so many great Cox Plates there. So to be part of one, it's going to be pretty exciting.
What's your ultimate, sort of race that you'd love to win? What's the race that you've always wanted to win in your life?
Well, that has been the race I've always loved watching. My main race has always been a Stradbroke handicap. Obviously, being a Queenslander, yeah. We pretty well stick to our state, tried and true, as you guys would know. Stradbroke's our biggest race. It's always the race I've wanted to win. I haven't won it yet. I've run second.
You haven't won it yet?
No, I haven't won a Stradbroke yet. I've run second a couple of times in it. I've been pretty unlucky, but look, I'm not going to stop trying. That's for sure. So it's been the race, but outside of it. I'd love to obviously win an Everest in Sydney. That race is just so so encapturing now of everyone. And then in Melbourne, it's always been the Cox Plate. It's the race I've always thought was Australia's best race. So they're the three: Stradbroke here, Everest in Sydney, and the Cox Plate in Melbourne.
Well, you're starting to get there. You're not far away, so hopefully that dream eventuates in a couple of weeks' time. Now, so just going through the Dream Association, we started back in 2017 with you. With a filly named Splitter, who won 5 and placed 10 out of her 24 starts. So that was a great sort of association. We only had one horse as a bit of a foray into the Queensland racing scene. We were Melbourne based, and the association with you was a good one. And then we've started to expand that, and we're really enjoying that sort of association that we've sort of partnered up with you. We've got then we had Self-Indulgent. That's right, Self-Indulgent was a great filly for us. We got her from the March Cuter sale, and she won 5 times at city level. Like the Cutest bonus system, I just asked you about that. I've been associated with it, obviously, since Self-Indulgent, which is about 5 years ago. It seems to be, from my point of view, one of the strongest bonus systems in Australia. You can virtually double your prize money on a Saturday event. And Self-Indulgent won 57,000 in bonuses, and she only cost 35,000 as a yearling. Yeah, that must have helped the Queensland racing sort of industry a lot, this bonus system.
Cutest title, so we train the most cutest money for 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds in the state. So that's the first time we've been able to do that. So terrific, always chasing that cutest instead of money as much as we can.
Yeah, I think one day it might have been Doomben she won at. She won a cutest race at Doomben and ended up winning about 80,000 for that event. And if you win a Saturday race at Flemington, you only win 72. So the prize money's outstanding, really.
I think it's 89,000 roughly to the winner for a filly now, isn't it? 89,000 for a filly if they win on a Saturday.
Yeah, that's outstanding. I think it's one of the reasons why we've now expanded into Queensland. We did it through pretty much that COVID period. We decided to sort of plant more horses over there, utilising yourself, and obviously we've got a couple other trainers in the Gold Coast region. But we've now got 5 horses with you, and we'll just, if you don't mind, just go through a few of those and just talk through them. About to Explode. He was a Spirit of Boom horse that we purchased from Eureka, obviously, who produced the most Spirit of Boom, I suppose, progeny in the sales. But they sold him at the English Classic sale, and we found him at the sale. Lenny Russo, who does all my bloodstock work, thought he was outstanding. He rated him a 4, which is pretty rare for him. Obviously, he was a cutest horse. We thought, well, no one's going to buy him at the Classic sale, and you were there that day, and we bought him together. He's been a great horse for us, working through the grades. He's running at Eagle Farm on Saturday. It's not well weighted against a couple of them there. What do you think of his on Saturday?
I think he's a smart horse. Took a little while to develop, but now, from how he's racing now and ahead is going to be all his best stuff. He's a really nice horse. I think he can overcome the weight difficulty. The favourite's obviously quite good, but the true rail at Eagle Farm means that they'll be getting off fence in the straight anyway. We're sitting back in middle just off. He can play to swooping. And if that's the case, as I expect, I think he'll hit the line really hard, particularly being nice and fit in his prep. And I think the favourite's first up.
And he's come along. I mean, we've taken him very slowly. You've actually trained a lot of that family, the full sister and I think the full brother as well.
Yeah.
Do you find similarities between them, or is he
He's the pick of them.
Better?
He's the best. He's the best of them. He'll be the pick of that family for sure. But he needed a little bit of time to develop this horse. He just wasn't quite ready early, but his best racing's ahead of him.
And ahead for him, I mean, at the moment we're just working through the grades and just getting his rating up so we can attack these bigger carnivals with a higher rating.
Yeah, that's what I'd like to do with him. Whether the summer's going to come a bit quick or not, it's not too far away. We just got to get that rating up a smidgen more and earn your right to be in those better races, which I'm sure the way he's racing and developing that will come.
Helen back, he's a hell-bent gelding. He's honest in his right grade. I know you've got him in at the Sunshine Coast on Saturday. He's drawn Friday night. He's drawn very wide. You've just accepted for the Gold Coast Saturday. I assume we're going the Gold Coast Saturday?
I haven't had a quick look at the Gold Coast yet, but I think the Sunshine Coast is pretty tricky off the wide draw. So I want to look at the Gold Coast. That would be my favourite option, I'd say.
Yeah, he looks well placed with Chelsea Baker's claim in that race. So, we'll wait for that. But he's been honest enough, as I said, in that right grade, and you've just got to place them in those grades to get those wins, don't you?
Absolutely. Got to place him a little bit carefully at the moment. He's very well, very fit, very healthy horse. It's just a matter of finding the right races. Another
horse, a Bender, who trialled yesterday, I think it was. And he trialled really, really nicely and finished off his trial. He's quite an exciting horse from what we've seen to date. He's only lightly raced. He won his maiden last start, and now he's back for a new prep. What have you seen in him? Any differences this prep?
Yeah, he's a much more mature horse now, looking physically. He's quite a nice animal. He's just got to calm down still a little bit. So we'll just place him carefully enough at shorter races, just till he learns how to properly execute, which was part of the plan last prep. Then he won his maiden. I like the way he trialled the other day. He'll only improve off that. A nice 1,000-meter race for him in a couple of weeks' time, 2 weeks from yesterday, which would be ideal kickoff point.
It's interesting the way you handle these horses, and I actually look back at Antino. You were very similar in the way you handled them early in their careers, lightly raced, built them up, and then you can attack these sort of stronger races as older horses. Is that something, a bit of a thing that you've had always in your sort of arsenal?
Oh, I just think it's just reading the play with the horse, really. I mean, the horses, they'll let you know when you can step them up and when you can't. I mean, it's up to them. I'd be more than happy to be at better races earlier if I could be. But, a horse like a Bender, for example, if you try to just push him along too much, you just fry him and cook him and you might have a horse left. While you've got a horse, you've always got opportunity. If you've got no horse, you've got no.
Yeah. Another horse we've got with you, and this is an interesting horse. He was sold at the March Cuda sale, a horse called La Proficia by Divine Prophet. I was up there for that sale. He was the first horse I saw. He walked out of his box and I loved him right from the moment I saw him. I said, no one's going to buy this horse. He's by Divine Prophet. Everyone will be off him. And then I went to the ring and you were bidding on him. I thought, Tony's never going to buy this, a Divine Prophet. But we both liked him. And again, we've taken him along slowly. Divine Prophets aren't really 2-year-olds. But that March Cuda sale has been a great hunting ground for us. We bought Self-Indulgent there, Sue Sale and Coda came out of that sale. Another horse that just raced, King Kabama, came out of that sale, and Selfie's sister, the younger one that we've got now, the Indulgent filly. Yeah, what do you think of this La Proficia so far from what you've seen?
Yeah, nice horse, and you're right. They're just not 2-year-olds to breed, so you just got to take your time with them a little bit. If you're happy to do that, end up with a nice horse. You gelded him. That was an important part of the puzzle. He was a naughty little bloke, but he's a lovely shaped horse. And if you're just happy to wait, to have a 3-year-old, you're gonna have a nice horse. And the breed's actually going pretty good for what they are. They're actually going quite well.
Yeah, I mean the Divine Prophets, they haven't had many opportunities, and the ones that we've sort of targeted, they've always been they've been good racehorses. And the final one is the Spirit of Boom Indulgent 2-year-old filly. So this is the half sister to Self-Indulgent. The family's been a very good family. Indulgent's actually thrown a lot of nice horses. She's got a full brother called Spoilt Rotten who hasn't won yet, but he's been around the mark in really strong races. I know we've only given her one prep and we've given her a bit of a break now, and she wasn't typically going to be an early 2-year-old. But what have you noticed from her to date, from what you've seen?
She's needed a bit of time. Physically she was just fairly immature, which is not uncommon, really. Like the sister, once she got going, she was right. But they're a bigger breed. They're quite heavy, so you just got to let all their bones and legs settle down before you put them under any pressure. So time was always going to be a friend.
And all of these horses are all cutest, and actually, other than About to Explode, who is English, they're mostly Magic Millions horses. Magic Millions Carnival for you has really been a bit of a highlight as well. As it's a carnival you've always targeted as well. Is it something in the back of your mind when you're bringing these horses through the grade? Because the carnival now, Magic Millions, is over actually 2 weekends. So there's even opportunities on that first weekend for these sort of progressive types.
Yeah, we've been lucky enough to win a lot of the races during that Magic Millions Carnival now, and I know it's at the back, it's pretty well at the forefront of my mind. As soon as we finish our winter or we have horses coming up in the spring, we really look to try and set them for that carnival, because if they're good enough, and they have to be good enough, it's just so much money to race for. Why wouldn't you? It's like the jewel in our summer carnival. So if you've got a Magic Millions horse and you've got a carnival quality horse, you've got to get them there in good condition on that day, because the prize money is just too good to refuse.
Yep, that's fantastic. Well, that's great, Tony. It's been great sort of talking to you today. As I said, we've started our association in 2017, and I can only see it sort of growing even more in the future. And thanks for your time today. Well done on your Hall of Fame induction, and good luck for a couple of weeks' time in the Cox Plate and on Saturday with About to Explode.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thanks for having me on. I've enjoyed it. We enjoyed the association with Dream, that's for sure. Yourself and Lenny do a fantastic job at picking the horses and obviously managing these syndicates. So it's stable. It's a syndication we love being involved in. And you're right. Hopefully we have a good bit of luck this weekend and next weekend. Spring's starting to hot up, and hopefully we can come away with a feature before it's all over.
I'm sure you will. You've outstanding organisation to deal with, very professional, and appreciate, as I said, the association. So thanks very much.
Thanks, Dave. Cheers, mate.